and they spend. And if you go to Europe now, you will find signs in, I was in Italy, in Chinese language. You can see how China is in that. So thank you, sir. And now our next speaker is Mr. Keith Bennett. Keith, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay, and Keith Bennett is an old friend, old progressive, an old revolutionary based in London. Currently is in Edinburgh for a small vacation. He's the co-editor of the Friends of Socialist China, which is a very popular online platform from England, and I occasionally contribute to it. They are very clearly supporting the People's Republic of China, socialism with Chinese characteristics. And it's over to you, Keith, for your insights in the matter. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, my very dear friend, Senator Mushahid Hussain Sayed, and greetings from the Scottish capital of Edinburgh. It's a great privilege to be on this webinar here in the UK this morning, and of course in the afternoon in Asia. Our topic, as you all know, is Xi Jinping's concept of whole process people's democracy. Now, this is a theoretical innovation of Xi Jinping, but inevitably it has its deep roots in the history of the Chinese Revolution and in China's ancient society and culture. As we all know, and as we've just heard, the People's Republic of China, founded in 1949, is nearly 73 years old. But even before that, the Communist Party of China had been administering liberated areas for nearly 20 years, at least from the time of the Shaanxi Soviet Republic of 1931 to 34. And in those days, of course, the Communist Party was functioning in the most difficult conditions imaginable, the conditions of encirclement and suppression by Chiang Kai-shek, fighting Japanese invasion, and so on. So their only choice for the Communist Party at that time and for the Red Army was to rely on the people, and therefore to develop innovative concepts of popular democracy. And this brought us what in China is called the mass line, relying on the broad masses of the people, and what Chairman Mao called from the masses to the masses, namely taking the scattered and unsystematic ideas of the people, synthesizing them, putting them on a scientific basis, and taking them back to the people to be adopted and implemented as their own. And I think we can see the roots of President Xi's practice in this period. So, starting, if we say, from the Shaanxi Soviet Republic of 1931, the CPC has now over 90 years of experience of governance, involving many hundreds of millions of people. And this is what has been summed up, systematized, and developed in President Xi's concept of whole process people's democracy. This concept also draws on millennia of Chinese civilization and Chinese wisdom. For example, in stressing consensus and harmony, Confucius talked about the great harmony of all under heaven, and Chairman Mao invoked the same idea in his speech to the first meeting of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, a body I'll say a little bit about in a while, which was held almost immediately before liberation in 1949. And I believe this is what President Xi draws on, in part, when he puts forward his concept of a community of shared destiny for humanity. So Chinese culture also is one where the interests of the family, the community, the society, and the country take primacy over the atomized interests of individuals. So whole process people's democracy is therefore very different in its origins, its philosophical underpinnings, its content, and its practice from the type of parliamentary democracy practiced in most Western countries today. Whole process people's democracy is not adversarial in form. Rather, it strives to unite the greatest number of people, not to divide them into hostile camps. The establishment of socialism and the elimination of exploitation and oppression as the defining features of society serves to create the material basis for this inclusive, non-adversarial democracy. In Western capitalist societies, being a politician is a profession. It has become, above all, a vehicle for personal advancement. We've seen how, for example, President Clinton or Prime Minister Blair used their period in public office as a springboard to become multimillionaires later. And we can see it ever more clearly today when we look at the shallow personalities who have been elevated to the leadership of both major political parties in the United Kingdom. In the United States, the situation is, if anything, even more grotesque. Here, politics has become degraded to a game for the very rich. To hold any kind of serious elected office in the United States, you have to be not simply a millionaire, but a multimillionaire. In his famous 1863 Gettysburg Address, President Abraham Lincoln advocated government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But in 2011, the distinguished economist Joseph Stiglitz described US democracy as being of 1%, by 1%, for 1%. In China, the situation is quite different. For the overwhelming majority of the delegates to its main legislative body, the National People's Congress, and its equivalent bodies down to the very local levels, being a politician is not their full-time occupation. They are to be found working in their local communities, among the people they represent, and who have selected them to speak for their interests. They are drawn from every profession, including ordinary workers and farmers. Only in a country like China or the Democratic People's Republic of Korea or Cuba can someone be both a sanitation worker and a parliamentarian. And very importantly, all of China's 55 nationalities are guaranteed representation in the parliament. There is a world of difference between this form of ongoing accountability and the system here in the United Kingdom, which is increasingly and aptly being described as an elective dictatorship, one where people are allowed once every 5 years or so to place an X against the name selected by one or other of the major parties, after which, for the period of their office, their accountability to their constituents is precisely zero. Possibilities to elect a genuine independent or a candidate from a minor party in our largely first past the post system are few and far between. As a result, not only is there a complete lack of accountability, whole sections of the population are effectively denied any kind of representation whatsoever. President Xi Jinping described this system very well when he said, if the people are awakened only at voting time and dormant afterward, if the people are favored during canvassing but are left out after elections, this is not true democracy. In China's system, the representation and harmonization of the interests of all sections of society is further guaranteed by the system of people's congresses being complemented at all levels by that of the People's Political Consultative Conferences, as I just mentioned about the first one before liberation. As an advisory body, this brings together party and non-party people, members of the various democratic parties in China that represent different sectors of society, experts from numerous professions, religious figures, entrepreneurs, overseas Chinese, and many others to supervise the work of government and lend their expertise and experience in an advisory capacity. Of course, whole part process, people's democracy, is not a complete or perfect system. It is a developing concept. It is a work in progress. It is qualified by the material realities that despite its stupendous progress, China still remains a developing country and moreover faces an increasingly complex external environment characterized by a new Cold War. Nevertheless, through this system, through the development of this system, Chinese people are increasingly gaining genuine and vital experience in running their country and their own affairs. At the 19th Congress of the Communist Party of China, held in 2017, President Xi Jinping said that socialism with Chinese characteristics offers the people of developing countries in particular a new option for those wishing to rapidly develop their economies while maintaining their independence. Likewise, I believe whole process people's democracy also offers a valuable point of reference for those seeking to dynamically and creatively involve the mass of the people in the running and building of a new society. I think it is this, above all, that makes your event today so timely and significant. I'd just like to end on a personal note. I visited Pakistan in 2017 to study CPEC, together with a good friend in London, Mushtaq Lashari. This was, I really want to say this, truly one of the great experiences of my life. I send my warmest greetings to the Pakistan China Institute and all the people of Pakistan. I wish you every success, and thank you again for today's invitation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bennett. Thank you for your insights. And I think your points that you made, 2 points are very relevant, that what is happening in China today after liberation under the Communist Party, they drew on the millennia of Chinese wisdom, of harmony, of coexistence, and of relating to the people through people-centered development. And secondly, I think your point is well taken, that China doesn't have full-time politicians. It's the only country where a sanitation worker can also be a parliamentarian, as you said rightly, because this is how functions take place. So thank you for your insights, and thank you for the good work that you're doing as part of the Friends of Socialist China, and we look forward to cordially welcoming you back to Pakistan. Your last visit was 5 years ago. A lot has changed, and some for the better, in regarding the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and which is, as you know, the centerpiece of the Belt and Road Initiative. Thank you so much, Mr. Bennett, and stay safe. God bless. Thank you. Now, I would like to request Mr. Hali, Sultan Hali Sahib, the author, the writer, the former Air Force officer, who's an old friend of China.